Right. Hello, everyone. Let's wait a couple more seconds for everybody to join in. Probably some of you are still in the previous meeting, so we'll take 30 seconds maybe, and then we can start with our webinar for today. Okay, room is slowly filling up. Perfect. Let's start. Good morning, everyone, and very warm welcome to our SuccessFactors H1 2026 release update webinar. As you probably know, the new release is already available in preview since mid-April and will go live in production around May 15 to 16. Today, we want to give you a clear and structured overview of what has actually changed, what is relevant for you, and where you might want to take a closer look. And most importantly, we will not just list features, but also give you some practical context around what these changes mean in real life. Let me quickly introduce the team that will guide you through today's sessions. My name is Marius Schmidt. I'm a sales manager at P78, and I'll be moderating today's session for you. I'm joined by a great group of colleagues who will walk you through the different modules. We have Jens Bronner, Principal Consultant. He's focusing on core HR topics. We have Anita Sonntag, consultant for recruiting topics, Marie Hoff, consultant for talent management, and Marnie Danker for onboarding and people analytics topics. Each of them will take you through the most relevant updates in their respective areas and share their perspective on what really matters for the update. And before we jump into the content, just a few organizational notes. All participants are muted to keep our session smooth and focused. If you have any questions during our session, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A functionality at any time. We will then collect the answers, the questions, and then we will send out our answers after the webinar. Also, for data protection reasons, the participant list is not visible for the other participants. And as always, we will share the slides with you after the presentation. Session is planned for around 60 minutes. For those of you who may not know us yet, I would like to start with a few words about P78. We are the HCM practice of CBS, Corporate Business Solutions, combining deep HR expertise with the strength of a global consulting organization. We are fully focused on HR, IT, and travel management with a strong emphasis on SAP SuccessFactors and related solutions. What is important in the context of today's session is that we work very closely with our customers across the full life cycle, from strategy and design and all the way through implementation and ongoing optimization. We also bring experience from international projects, which help us put these releases into a broader perspective, especially when it comes to global rollouts or harmonized processes. And that's exactly the lens we'll apply today and when we look at the new release. So let's take a quick look at the agenda for today. We will walk you through the most important updates across the core SuccessFactors module, starting with Employee Central, followed by Payroll and Time Management, and then moving into Recruiting, Onboarding, and then People Analytics. After that, we will also cover talent management, learning, compensation, and also the opportunity marketplace. So as mentioned earlier, the focus is really on highlighting what is relevant for you and where you might need to take action in the system. And with that, I'll hand over to Jens to get us started with Employee Central.
Thank you, Marius. Hello and good morning from my side. Yes, with the new release, we see SAP focuses on a deeper integration of their AI features, agents, and so on into the entire suite. And also the smart recruiters integration is a big thing, but for EC module, we can also observe that there are more than 130 improvements included in the package. Therefore, this just can be a small overview of some of the most important updates here. Yes, tons of information and not that much time. So just let us go to the next slide and let me start with an improvement in the area of pay transparency. As most of you know, the Pay Transparency Directive from the European Union needs to be transposed by all the member states by 7th of June 2026 this year. And the purpose is to identify and close pay gaps between women and men, and so on and so forth. In SuccessFactors, there now is an option for employees and administrators available to generate standardized documents that allow them to compare their own pay with benchmark data via the existing document generation tool of SuccessFactors. Therefore, on this slide, two new MDF objects can be seen in the middle, which were introduced and which needs to be implemented before the comparison documents can be generated. On the next slide, I see an enhancement. You see an enhancement which is tagged as minor, but from my project's experience, often it is a very relevant topic here. With SuccessFactors, you now have better support for handling individual and localized information on country-specific addresses. You now can configure alternative address fields under each country region-specific address element, such as home address China here in this example, and these settings will override those in the base home address element. Previously, alternative fields could only be configured at the base home address element, while setting at the country region level was ignored by the system. This brings us to the next slide. This enhancement was made for the data management, mass data management tool, and with it you can handle now job relationships from now on. You can add and delete job relationships for your relationship types, e.g. adding an additional manager or deleting HR managers, second managers, and so on and so forth from a single batch run. Okay, with my next slide, I like to inform you that there are a few enhancements for the data replication monitor were brought in. There's a new last replication start time column, and when you use the location filter in your daily business, you will see that there is a better behavior and better performance, what is very useful if you are in an organization with a huge amount of locations. And finally, the data replication monitor includes the replication status of financing information for systems where the public sector feature is enabled. Okay, next, let's take a look at the improved support for custom workflows. Okay, when you're working with custom workflows, you're now able to use more contextual details by using tokens from the workflow triggering object in your notification for pending data workflows. Second, you can use tokens from user-based MDF objects, such as employee time or payment information for the direct mapping type, and not only from HRIS elements like in the past. That's a good enhancement here. And on my next slide, you will see enhancements to the recently introduced redesigned history UI for effective dated entities in the full profile of the latest profile. The redesigned history UI is now available for compensation information, payment information, alternative cost distribution work order, recurring deductions, and your custom MDF information cards on the full profile. The redesigned history UI has certain areas we need to discuss a little bit deeper. The first one is I'll give you some general information about the updates. And when you open a new history UI in the job information or the compensation information for records that share the same effective start date, they have now included a sequence number in the history list view. Deletion and correction of gap records for addresses, dependents, job relationships for time periods with no entries. For example, when a previous record was end dated, is possible now, and you can also select the correct button to add data to the gap records or change its effective start date from here. Then next, empty sections, except, no, oh, just go back, sorry for that. Then empty sections, except for job information, are no longer displayed. And yes, there is another update here when there are upcoming changes displayed, and you navigate from the summary list of the future dated data to the history UI via the icon on the right side. It's number 2 here. The system opens the history UI and highlights the exact time period for the selected change, what it makes easier for you to review your future updates. And finally, the main screen of the history UI displays only fields that changed when you select a record from the history panel. To view the entire record, choose Show All Fields, and after you choose this option, the label now changes to Show Changes Only. So you can better switch between these both views. Okay, then let's move to the history UI changes for the personal information on the next slide. And yeah, there is a minor update. I think it's we have an update for the alternative names here, which are highlighted now as change and displays on both sides, the main screen and the history panel. Yeah, and important to tell is that the redesigned history UI now is also available for the payment information I already mentioned. Okay. On the next slide, let's take a look at the job relevant data changes for the history UI. To sum up, SAP made certain adjustments for the latest people profiles history UI to establish the same behavior as it is with the legacy profile, like for job classification field or the to be hired positions, or when making corrections to the job relationship records. Alternative cost distribution and work order now also benefit from the redesigned history UI I already also mentioned. That brings us to the next slide. It's the compensation information update for the history UI and some additional information here. Okay, so it's available here, I mentioned, and also for the recurring deductions. Then next, let's say it's an interesting update. Here, the change calculator for the amount field has been removed. I assume it had often caused some confusion among customers. It was a little bit tricky to use. And another update here for the amount field and the pay component group sums. Once an amount is calculated by the system, it is now updated automatically if there are changes on the record behind. Yes, and then let's take a look on the next slide. I have 3 more slides for EC, and we see here a major update for the payment information. The entire UI has been redesigned, including data viewing, editing, and of course, we find the redesigned history UI history UI here is mentioned. So we definitely will have a clearer user experience than before with the payment information, I expect. But we also now have some additional business rules here available, which control the field visibilities, editabilities, and contextual field display. Yes, for the fields of the payment information on the insert, initialize, and onload triggers, as you know. So then next slide, please, is about an enhanced feature for the purge functionality of SuccessFactors. Now, for personal information and global information, you are able to purge on a field level base. Yeah, this is possible while retaining the existing records. This is a very, very useful enhancement for administrators to get sensitive data removed without the need to delete and to re-import entire employee records. Okay, the next slide, and this is the next slide because it's an important slide. so you can remember them better because, yeah, it's very important and it's regarding the dependence management within SuccessFactors. This enhancement is to be understood as an enhancement to the existing feature, and now you can customize your configuration for dependence according to country, region, specific, and your relationship types. You define fields to be active depending on your scenario, including whether home address and national ID information should be included or not. That's really cool update here. But to be honest, SAP will not be SAP if there are no conditions for using this. Once activated, this feature cannot be disabled anymore. And it can be enabled only if you don't have any data for dependence in your system yet. This means you have to talk with your HR and have to evaluate if it's an option for you. Okay, that's for the part of EC. I like to take over also the topics of payroll and time management. And for payroll, I picked out 3 topics that are relevant. EC Payroll is that dedicated payroll solution hosted by SAP, what is point-to-point integrated with SuccessFactors without using a middleware. Yes. Okay, so during the monitoring phase in the payroll control center, the change of employee data might happen, such as organizational changes, transfers, terminations, data correction, and so on. These changes can cause distorted employee selection, the employee included in the payroll activity, to become outdated. Yeah. The system now continuously monitors for those changes in the employee data that affect the activity selection. When changes are detected, the system automatically updates the employee selection for ongoing activities. Yeah. And now you can configure the frequency of the update and scope based on your business needs. And if there is a problem and you need to interact with the system provides clear notification when a manual review is recommended. Okay, the update on the next slide is relevant when you're using EC Payroll with EC Time Tracking, especially when you're responsible for a German payroll. Now the start and the end times of the EC Time Tracking time evaluation results are now replicated to the employee remuneration info. It's info type 2010. This data enables the accurate processing of the payroll then of generating wage types such as night, Sunday, public holiday premiums, and so on, as required per the German income tax law. Yes, as you know, as when you are responsible for the payroll. And next, on the last slide for EC Payroll, I picked out some legal changes that may be important or are important. First, the key a basic service has been introduced to ECP now. This stands for electronically accept documents for reduced hours compensation. And the second, the EEL has a new dataset version from January this year. Finally, we have the information from SAP that the active pension is now available in the system. And finally, an information from the colleagues that there are 2 certificates, server-side certificates. It's e-statistics and social insurance are going to expire soon, and you need to check them with your payroll consultants or basis team. Okay, then let's switch over to time management. I've also picked 3 topics out of it. So the first one, as an administrator, you can configure now partial day absences, how they are treated in the system, and in the dynamic break deduction to prevent double deduction of breaks when an employee has both working time and partial absence on the same day. For each absence time, you can decide whether it should be considered as working time or as break for the automatic dynamic break calculation. For example, if an employee has a doctor's appointment in the middle of a workday or takes vacation in the first or the second half of the day, you can configure the system to treat these partial absences according to your need. And the next slide brings us to the point that administrators are now able to configure how the system manages overlaps between absences and attendances. This allowing an accurate time tracking and even when the records collide. This is not only to reflect the real-world scenarios and policies, it ensures an accurate and efficient time tracking. Of course, previously customers reported certain issues when absences such as sick leave or vacation overlapped with attendances records, such as on-call shifts. Okay, and then my last slide. I like to let me check what it's about. It's about the attendance quota. Yes, a very good new update here. We also have now attendance quotas for your employees in the systems, which have to work additional hours. Yes, of course, there's a prior approval process in the system, and the attendance quota can be defined along with some parameters here. So the time period, of course, and it's mandatory. We have workday restrictions, weekday restrictions, time restrictions, and of course a quota limit. And employees can record work with these parameters or within these parameters, and the system then ensures the accurate tracking and payment based on these configured routes. Okay, so that's it from my side. Fast go through it, but I hope some important information here for you. And thank you. Let me hand over to Anita now.
Thank you, Jens. And now we switch to the recruiting module. So for the recruiting module, there are several new features and updates. I would like to start with 2 major enhancements, followed by several minor enhancements. And one of the major enhancements is the possibility to integrate Smart Recruiters Winston with SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting and embed Winston Chat directly into your career site using the career site builder. This integration brings an AI-powered conversational experience to SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting. It helps companies to guide and support candidates better when they visit the career site. And with this setup, Winston Chat can be added as an overlay to your existing career site. So the integration offers 2 main capabilities. One is it synchronizes job requisition data from SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting to Smart Recruiters. So job information is available in Winston Chat, and it allows companies to embed Winston Chat into their career site through the career site builder. This means organizations can benefit from Winston Chat even if they continue using SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting as their applicant tracking system. As a requirement, we need to set up the integration with Smart Recruiters Winston Chat, and the integration requires a separate license for Smart Recruiters Winston for SAP SuccessFactors. And now on to the next major enhancement. Recruiters can now use a unified skills picker to add both AI extracted skills and skills from the Talent Intelligence Hub to the job requisition, job profiles, and Interview Central. And this new feature makes skills management much easier and introduces several improvements. For job requisitions, recruiters can now add skills by simply selecting the Add button in the skills section on the job profile details page. And it's important to note that this unified experience is applies only to new job requisitions created after the feature is enabled. In Interview Central, the skills added to the job requisition are automatically available to interviewers, and by selecting Rate Now, interviewers can provide ratings and comments for each candidate based on those skills. A key improvement is that both organizational skills from Talent Intelligence Hub and external AI extracted skills are now available in one single interface. The new AI recommended skills toggle makes selecting the right skills even easier. And when the toggle is turned on, recruiters see only the most relevant skills. And when it's turned off, all available skills are displaced, while the recommended skills are still highlighted with a recommended label. Overall, the unified skills picker creates one central place to add, remove, and manage skills. This may reduce manual effort, saves time, and improves the overall user experience. Next, we take a look at the minor enhancements. One of it is the new filter for active applicants in the applicant workbench. So recruiters can now filter the new applicant workbench to view only active applicants, making it easier to focus on candidates who are still moving through the hiring process. The new feature called Show Active Applicant Statuses Only allows recruiters to quickly filter the applicant list, and when the toggle is turned on, only candidates with active status are displayed, and when the toggle is turned off, both active and inactive candidates are shown. The new applicant management experience needs to be activated as a requirement for this enhancement. The second enhancement on this slide is also for the new applicant management experience, and recruiters can now easily identify candidates who are waiting for interview feedback and send timely reminders in the applicant workbench. A new column called Feedback Pending has been added to the redesigned applicant workbench. If interview feedback is still missing, the column displays a pending label. So if no feedback is outstanding, the column remains blank. In the current version, selecting the pending label opens a dialog box that shows which interviewers still need to submit feedback along with the date they were last reminded. It is also important to note that the pending label does not appear immediately after an interview takes place. It only shows if feedback is still missing at least one day after the interview date. This enhancement helps prevent candidates from getting stuck in the interview process, and it makes it easier for recruiters to track missing feedback and follow up with interviewers who have not yet completed their evaluation. Moving on to the next slide. Recruiters will now receive a warning message when a draft offer letter contains unresolved tokens. So that helps them fix issues before sending the letter to a candidate. When an offer letter is generated, the system automatically checks for unresolved tokens and highlights them. This helps recruiters quickly identify the source of the issue and update the missing information. As long as unresolved tokens remain, a notification message stays visible at the top of the page, and recruiters can select View Details at any time to reopen the warning dialog and review the missing fields. Overall, this enhancement reduces the need for manual checks and helps recruiters resolve issues faster and prevents unnecessary delays in the offer process. If we have a look at the next slide, we will find a new possibility for administrators. They can now configure custom fields as reportable fields directly in Admin Center, making reporting setup faster and much easier. A new tool called Manage Reportable Fields allows administrators to make custom fields reportable for job requisitions, for job application templates, and the candidate profile template. It's important to note that any field previously mapped in provisioning is automatically migrated to the new tool. And overall, this enhancement reduces dependency on support teams and implementation partners and speeds up reporting configurations and improves flexibility for administrators. And what I like the most is the fact that this enhancement was introduced based on customer feedback from customer community ideas. As the last enhancement for the recruiting module, we would like to highlight some changes to the career site builder and career site. First, administrators can now apply custom styling to the back to search results link that appears usually at the top of the job details page. And in the career site builder, you can configure settings such as link style, font style, font size, font color, and hover color. Previously, this link could not be styled separately and automatically inherited the settings from the main site styles. Another improvement ensures consistent use of the content style full on all site pages, and also the footer now correctly follows the footer width setting configured in the career site builder. So when the footer width is set to full, the footer now expands across the entire width of the complete page. Overall, these enhancements create a more consistent, responsive, and visually balanced experience for visitors on your career sites. There is no configuration required, but you may want to review your configuration and verify that your career site appears as desired. And now I would like to hand over to Marnie for the onboarding release updates.
Thanks, Anita. So for onboarding, we have roughly about 18 updates. However, for this webinar, I'll be sharing across the ones that are relevant for you. So the first one is on the cancel form I-9 and E-Verify processes. So previously, there was no in-app mechanism to cancel form I-9 or I-9 re-verification tasks, and often requiring back-end requests or manual workarounds. With this update in this new release, the new Manage Compliance Processes buttons, which is now available on the new Higher Details page when compliance processes exist, allows administrators and onboarding participants to cancel the form I-9 and E-Verify tasks directly in the system. So this delivers better control over onboarding workflows, reduces operational delays, and ensures a clearer and cleaner audit trail. So moving on to the next slide. Previously, the I-9 re-verification task was triggered on a hard-coded timeline of 240 days before document expiration. This enhancement introduces a configurable trigger for the US Form I-9 re-verification, allowing customers to define when the task is initiated based on the number of days before a document expires. So this setting is maintained in the admin center under the US I-9 compliance settings with a default of 180 days, giving customers greater flexibility and control over re-verification timing. So moving on to the next slide, this enhancement removes the previous limitation on the Assign To dropdown in Manage Onboarding and Offboarding programs. Previously, only up to 200 responsible groups were visible, with additional updates requiring managed data. But now, all available responsible groups are displayed with no limitation, giving administrators a more streamlined way to assign tasks and manage large, scalable onboarding and offboarding structures. So on to the next slide. This is with this enhancement, administrators and onboarding participants can now initiate US Form I-9 correction and re-verification processes directly from the new Higher Details page. Previously, the Section 3 re-verification tasks were only accessible from compliance cards or the homepage to-do panel and required manual object creation in managed data to trigger or to cancel. Bringing these actions into one central location significantly improves control over the compliance workflow, helping reduce missed deadlines and the risk of compliance violations. So on to the next slide. Previously, the enhanced offboarding dashboard was only available when administrators explicitly enabled it in the admin center settings. As of the first half 2026 release, the latest offboarding dashboard is now enabled by default for all new implementations, and existing customers are automatically migrated with no changes to their current permissions. This ensures a seamless transition while preserving access for users who already have the required authorizations. Customers should also note that the legacy offboarding dashboard will be depreciated with the end of development and maintenance on May 15, 2026, and full removal scheduled for November 14, 2026. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. So this release introduces an additional onboarding homepage card specifically designed for assigned buddies. On the new hire start date or once an onboarding tasks are completed, buddies will see this card prominently on their homepage as a reminder to connect. The card gently nudges buddies to reach out, offer a warm welcome, and help new hires get started, creating a more engaging and supportive onboarding experience. On to the next slide. This release introduces a new task management page for onboarding tasks, providing an additional way to view and manage tasks beyond the existing to-do side panel. Users can now access onboarding tasks directly from the task management page via the Manage Tasks option on the onboarding dashboard. This enhancement centralizes task visibility and helps improve day-to-day task tracking and completion of onboarding terms. So on to the last slide for onboarding updates. So for this one, this enhancement introduces the review growth portfolio task into the onboarding experience for internal hires, supporting a smoother role transition. It enables employees to proactively assess their strengths, identify readiness gaps, and align their growth areas with organizational priorities early in the process. By completing this task during onboarding, internal hires take ownership of their development while organizations benefit from stronger talent readiness and agility. The task can be assigned only to internal hires who already have access to the growth portfolio, so it's ensured that it is targeted and relevant. So that concludes the updates for the onboarding module. Next, we'll take a look at the updates for people analytics. So for the first update, this is on the improved location and employment data joins in story reports. This update improves how location and employment data are joined in. You can now create a direct join from legal entity to location group, removing the need to first join through the location object. In addition, the join between job information and employee payroll run results now correctly links user ID, resulting in more accurate, streamlined reporting with fewer manual workarounds. On to the next slide. So this one introduces a new way to migrate development goal data into reporting directly from the admin center. Administrators can now run a one-time job in Schedule Job Manager to sync development goal data into table reports, improving reporting consistency and performance. For best results, it is recommended to migrate one development goal plan template per job, giving customers the flexibility in how goal data is reported. On the next slide, this release adds a new last modified source column to multiple schemas in the report stories, including employment, compensation, and person. The new column provides visibility into where the most recent change originated, complementing existing last modified on and last modified by fields. This enhancement improves data transparency and auditability, helping customers better understand and trace changes across key employee data. On to the next slide. So with this update, new continuous performance management fields and tables are now supported in story reports. Customers can report on discussion topics and meeting notes, as well as feedback and feedback requests, providing richer insights into ongoing performance conversations. In addition, inactive user data is now reportable, ensuring a more complete and accurate view of performance history across the organization. On to the next slide. So for this one, the release introduces auto-join tables in advanced filters for story reports, bringing the same flexibility users already have with simple filters. You can now select fields from auto-join tables and build filter conditions across multiple related objects within a single advanced filter. This significantly simplifies report creation, reduces manual workarounds, and makes complex filtering more intuitive and efficient for report builders. On to the next slide. So for this release, this enhancement introduces a greater flexibility when exporting data from Query Designer. Users can now access a new export setting option where they can define both the order of the column and how data is sorted, instead of relying on a default export layout. Columns can be easily rearranged and multiple sort criteria can be applied in either ascending or descending order. These settings are saved with query and consistently applied whenever data is previewed or exported, improving clarity and usability without impacting the story or widget design. On to the next slide. This release increases the default limits for self-joins and nested if statement guardrails in story reports to support more complex reporting scenarios. The maximum number of self-joins is now increased to 30, and nested if statements are supported up to 85 levels. So these higher limits enable customers to build more sophisticated queries without hitting technical constraints and reducing the need for report redesigns or workarounds. On to the next slide. So this release introduces a new real-time performance guardrails in story reports to help report designers build more efficient queries. Designers now receive live warnings when approaching performance-heavy thresholds, allowing issues to be addressed early without impacting existing stories. The scope of guardrails has also been clarified with limits enforced on self-joins and nested if statements, while existing reports continue to run unaffected. Overall, this helps improve report performance and design quality without disrupting current report. Onto my last slide for people analytics. This release enhances also the data exports from Query Designer by fully supporting dynamic date range filters. In the past, queries using dynamic date filters often excluded filtered data during export, but that limitation has now been resolved. As a result, exported data more accurately reflects what users see in the query results. The enhancement is generally available from January 26, 2026, and combined with extended support for calculated columns after a patch, it enables more complete and reliable reporting outcomes. So this concludes the updates for People Analytics. I'll pass it over to Marie to update for talent modules. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. So let's have a quick overview over the talent module, starting with performance and goals. Most importantly, the new performance management form experience is now automatically enabled in all systems, except for those that use legacy goal management or still the job description manager. And if you need it, you can switch back to the legacy experience. So if you do not want to use it in productive system, you should deactivate it in productive system soon after the release. Furthermore, the team overview page was also redesigned, which provides managers with a more intuitive way to track and work on performance forms for all team members. On the next slide, we see a big improvement in the new forms. The section descriptions can be now expanded or collapsed by default. This is enabled in the form template settings. There's a new option called Expand Form Section Descriptions on first opening. So by default, this setting is disabled, but if you want to have the section descriptions expanded, you just have to choose this option. And important to say, once a user manually expands or collapses a description, their preference is saved and in their browser, and it remains the same when they reopen the form. On the next slide, we see the new possibilities for business rules in performance templates. There's, for example, a new scenario offering the possibility to add custom validations to form fields, or a possibility to create a business rule to automatically trigger the launch of new forms. So, for example, if you have an employee who receives a very high performance rating, you can all automatically start a leadership development template. Also, in the next slide, we see progress in AI topics. So, managers can now gain insights into employees' performance when they are involved in iterative or collaborative steps. This was previously only possible in single role steps, and this benefits managers by providing consistent access to AI-assisted performance insights. Of course, for this, you have to have purchased the AI units. And if you want to have more information on the AI units, please contact your account executive. The next one is a really cool feature, which came from several customer influences. So this is the mass change goal plan states. You can now change performance goal plan states for multiple employees at once without needing to open each employee's goal plan individually. You can upload up to 30,000 state changes at once. And this tool is managed through a new role-based permission named Mass Change Goal Plan States. Also, the next enhancement improves work for administrators. You can now mass route up to 5,000 forms at once from your performance or 360 form inbox, which is a massive increase if you think that previously it was a limit of 20 forms at once. So we come to the succession and development enhancement. There's a new switch. Allow users to manage learning without write permission for development goals. This is available in the career development planning feature settings. And when enabled, users with read access to development goals and permission to manage learning can now add learning from SF Learning or create and link custom learnings to development goals. This was previously only possible if the users had a write permission for at least one goal field. The next slide. As an administrator, you can use role-based permissions to control who manages successor nominations and who can be nominated as successors for positions. And this is a new permission: view, add, edit, delete successor nominations. And it is a child permission under the succession planning permissions. You can use it to control who can manage your successor nominations. On the next slide, we can see that you can now add custom attributes as search options in the talent search, in addition to skills and competencies. And the add dialog now shows the 50 most recently created attribute types that each contain at least one attribute. And the users can just drill down into an attribute type to select specific attributes, or use the search bar to find attributes by name. Okay, then we come to the learning release. First, the program and curricular pages have been redesigned and adopted to the new learning UI. But there's no change to the existing functionality, just the new learning UI. But what has changed, we can see on the next slide, is that now administrators can require the completion of prerequisites and approvals before a learner can move through a program. This was previously not possible and one of the biggest showstoppers from using programs, I think. So now, when enabled, the system checks for any prerequisites or approvals required for registration or online access whenever a learner accesses a course within a program. Also, a good feature is the next one for those customers using item revisions. So far, when revising items, the curriculum-specific data were overwritten with item level settings if the values were different. And now, if you set the retain curricular settings on item revision to yes, the initial and retraining assignment data from the item levels are retained, which makes really a lot of less manual effort after item revision. The next improvement also reduces a lot of manual effort. So if you use open content network items, you can configure a default library for each provider to automatically assign imported items to a specific library. For the next functionality, we've been waiting for a really long time, and this is really cool that now managers can again register, withdraw, and so on their employees for learning items from the TeamView page, and they can also access the SF 182 learning requests, reports, and curriculars from the additional actions menu. So this is a big improvement. A small improvement is that learners can now view additional learning details for courses, programs, classes, and curricula directly on the learning homepage without navigating to the details page. But this enhancement doesn't apply to approval, survey, tasks, or custom cards. And if you want to disable this because it's like an additional information, an additional click, you can do this in the system configuration in the LMS administration. Yes. In compensation, the planners can now use enhanced mass actions in the executive review to adjust compensation values across filtered employee populations. And furthermore, the budget details for before and after application of the mass actions are displayed. So you can assess the impact of the changes before running the changes. And there are several new fields on the template, from salary, bonus, and stock tabs, as well as additional criteria such as guideline and pay range. Which brings us to the next slide. The budget rules that you have configured for the template are now considered also in the executive review, and the error or warning messages are generated in the executive review upon save of the data when the budget rules aren't respected. And this was previously not possible. The rule validation were only available for worksheets. Also in variable pay, we see improvement in the business rule scenarios. So you can now define conditional rules directly in the formula field for the basis calculation equation in variable pay templates using if-then conditions. And this allows you to set different calculation logic for target bonus amounts based on string or number fields. On the next slide, we see a lot of changes in the statement changes. So you can now select certain standard fields from goal plan sections. You can now recall personal compensation statements for up to 20,000 users by uploading a CSV file, or, which is also a new feature, you can now transfer personal reward statements for an employee from the inactive to the active employment using the Manage Individual Talent Data Transfer tool. And just to mention, it should be clear, but also the permission have changed for the reward statement. So they are now not in the role-based permissions anymore, but in the permissions for the latest people profile. So we come to the last talent module, the opportunity marketplace. Before, the job recommendations could only be controlled by pay rate, and now admins can add geographic or custom job level filters, and this enhancement gives administrators greater control over open job recommendations, and it also provides the users with more relevant recommendations. Which brings us to the last slide of the opportunity marketplace. The learning recommendations based on the user's skills and attributes are now available in the Learn New skills section in the opportunity marketplace, and in the opportunities to grow section in the growth portfolio, in the latest career worksheet. The learning items associated with a greater number of the user skills are prioritized, and items with a lower level than the user's current skill level are excluded. So this was it for the talent modules. I hand over to Marius.
Yes. Well, nothing more to say than thank you. Thank you to all the colleagues for presenting and for the great insights. And of course, thank you for attending this webinar to all the participants. As mentioned, we will send you the presentation afterwards via email. If you want to go into detail with us for any module, please feel free to contact us. My email is on the screen. Yeah, wish you a great rest of your day. Thank you.